I wish we had that. I'm gonna get that Bulls intro music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need because when we have certain guests, we gotta have that music. We gotta have that music. But
Man, how you made the graphic and you didn't put Czar the playbook on there? I
I
just
didn't.
realized that.
I didn't. I didn't. But I asked him what he wanted. He gave. That's what the time. I
Well,
went
but
with the music. I
honestly, you
know.
could have just put. Man, you could have just put Czar the playbook. We would have known who it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to update that. But ladies and gentlemen, none other than Mr. Emory Hunt, founder of Football Game Plan. He's an analyst for CBS Sports HQ and Sportsline, college football color analyst. He is the czar of the playbook. Welcome to HBCU, Mr. Emory. Thank you for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, guys. I appreciate you guys bringing me on the show, man. It's a pleasure.
Oh man, we are very grateful to have you here, brother. It's an honor for you to be here with us today and talk some football, man. You one of the best to do it with, so glad to have you here to do it.
Now, let me ask this because I want to, before we jump into this draft, I want to ask this. How, one, do you find time to even like all the FCS and just saying pick up on stuff and have these great breakdowns and how did how did you even get started to even wanting to do FCS?
It's funny, man, because when I started football game plan in '07, it was just a website. And up in '09, we were like, okay, how can we transition? And I kind of saw how the future was going to be. It's like people just they're not reading stuff anymore. They rather watch stuff. They want to see stuff. And so my background is in communication. So I knew how to do camera work and lighting and mics and all those good things like that. So I was like, it's easier for me to say what I want to say than to write these articles, find pictures, and constantly update the website. I'm gonna just set this camera up, and set up a set, and then say what I want to say in 5 minutes, and then move on to something else, move on to the next video. And that kind of took off because we were kind of one of the first ones to jump into the space of video. Then in 2011, we did podcasting when no one was doing podcasting, and we had a call-in show every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And it was pretty dope to do because again, now you're introducing people to something new, and that kind of took off. But it really started when going through playing college ball, and I remember we lost all our FCS games one year. We lost to Northwestern State, we lost to Jacksonville State, we lost to Sam Houston State. Shout out to Josh McCown because he lit us up that night. We was like, yo, we didn't know White Vic was out there like running around all over the place. He was killing it. But so that kind of like, man, if this dude that we played against is dope and he's now playing as a rookie for the Arizona Cardinals, and I know dudes that I played with that ended up going into other schools and transferred, and then they get into the NFL. It's like I know there's way more talent than the SEC and Power Five and other schools like that. So when I started to do our website, it's like, you know what, man, we're gonna cover everything, because we had a pretty good handle on, we were just watching college football. It's like, we got a pretty good handle on it. And what really got us jumped off was we were one of the first places to predict App State beat Michigan. At the time, people thought we was crazy. App State was still in the FCS. They knocked off Michigan. That got people to the site. And so we saw a lot of people from the FCS constantly talking about, oh, this place was over here predicting the FCS games. So it's like, let's just keep, we'll do weekly FCS previews, weekly FBS, and we'll go D2, D3, and we just kind of cover it all. So I watch a lot of football. And when you're watching football, you're constantly watching it for years in advance. So you have a pretty good depth of knowledge, an encyclopedia. So now when you're watching, you could pick up on stuff quickly. And plus, me calling games helps me also prepare for stuff. So it's all that you kind of do and see that keeps you involved and keeps you abreast of what's going on around you, which is how I'm able to go through different leagues and different subdivisions of college football to really breakdown. I kind of like it too because it kind of broadens your perspective. So you're kind of seeing everything from a 360 degree point of view, which helps you then be better in the NFL, be better at major college football because you're spending time doing all the things around it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't catch that, he no ball. Plain and simple.
And I coach for a year too, so all that stuff kind of matters, man. Like everything that you do kind of leads you to where you're going. So you know, I point being, I watch a lot of football, and also I see you guys talking about school and elementary school. I don't have kids either, so that also frees up a lot of time too. So
that's big.
I definitely shout out to ESPN app. Shout out to Hulu Live because I'm able to go to these different events and still keep up, and not lose my mind. So I know you talked about covering D2 and D3. You were one of the first people who I heard talk about St. Thomas. And I started hearing that, seeing how good, and then somebody else started. I said, "Yep, I heard about them. They're gonna be good." So it's like I said, I don't get how you have. I mean, I understand. You say you do, cover it, but having that time, not even just that time, being able to use those resources to find this information because the internet doesn't tell you a lot. When you start looking up these schools, they may not necessarily have a social media presence and stuff. So, and that's one issue we find with, especially because when we're covering HBCUs, we don't see a lot of that information because it's social media is not there. Most news coverage isn't going to cover it a lot. So, yeah, it's definitely a monument.
So that's a good question. How do you find all your information? Is it just connections with coaches and like relationships that you built over the years, or do you like go to some of these schools and get firsthand looks at some of the practices and things of that nature? Like, how do you build your database of all your knowledge?
Well, that's a great question because I feel like a lot of folks when they see, let's say, us on TV or whatnot, and we're talking, they just assume, we just pop up on TV or in the studio that they are on air, and we just go off, right? So let's say now, we're talking about the NFL draft, and after the draft, a lot of people go ghost, right? And just some people go on vacation, some people do whatever they just kind of take it back. You'll see people pop up on the shows every now and then talking about draft picks or whatnot. But for me, and this is where you build your knowledge, and this is where you build your base for the following fall. I'm at certain colleges. I'll go down and interview a couple coaches. Last year I went to Benedict to interview, Coach Chinnisberry. I was over at Allen interviewing their coach as well. And so you kind of, you're around schools, and then where I live and, right outside New York City, from Boston down to DC. And, so there's so many college programs in my concentrated area, you know what I'm saying? So I can get to a lot of practices, see a lot. And also you put in the work too. Hey, I know now that the draft is over, I got to start getting ready for the fall. So you have until May through August to start, watching film on last year, trying to check on rosters, who's coming back, who's in the portal. Now, you probably have notes from the previous year about certain teams that you watch. So, okay, this guy's graduated, he's going. Or this, I remember watching this, and they did X, Y, and Z. Oh, this coach is still here, so I kind of know what to expect offensively and defensively. But you spend those times in, May, June, July, early August, just kind of watching film and make sure the rosters are updated and getting prepared for the upcoming year. So that year when a lot of us go away or go dark, we're just prepping for the upcoming season. And for some, that means just prepping for, hey, I only cover the SEC or I cover NFL. But for me, it's like you constantly are on it because I'm also at Giants camp every day, training camp, mini camp, OTAs. So I'm getting ready for the NFL season in addition to getting ready for college season. So it's just a lot and you got to budget your time. And when you're able to, stay disciplined and budget your time and make sure you kind of treat it like a regular 9-to-5 work day, you're able to get a lot of stuff done. So therefore, when the season comes, it's easier because then during the season, you're just reciting what you know and what you've seen or what you are gonna anticipate, and that kind of helps me also when I call these college games, because then my focus in is okay. I have this Morgan State, Delaware State broadcast this week, so I know I start prepping for that on. We have production meetings on Tuesday over Skype. I'll watch a game or two about each team, and then I'm ready for the game on Saturday. And that work is done earlier in the week, especially when you call certain teams consistently. Like, if I see Morgan State once and I don't have them again next week, that's less film I have to watch on Morgan State. Now I realize I'm just preparing for the opponent. So it's kind of it becomes easier as things go on, but the bulk of your work is done between May and August.
So what I heard is ain't no such thing as off season for Emory Hunt.
Never. It may seem like it, but just even for preparing for the draft, man, I put out a draft guide that's over 1,000 individual scouting reports, right? And people can find it at footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide, right? Full color PDF, over 1,000 individual prospects. And I spend 2 months watching film and breaking down those prospects and just putting together that draft guide. So now this week, people can ask me about anybody. I'm ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Because I've damn near unseen everybody. But I like that I kind of peg myself as Mr. Day 3, because while everybody else on every other network is on day 3, talk about day 1, I'm gonna have all the information on everybody that's getting picked up and everybody that's gonna be signing right after the draft. So that's just how I go about it. I like to be prepared. I like to be in the know. And that's the work I put in that shows you, like, hey, this is how you get to where you want to be. You got to really grind it out early and sometimes go a little bit later.
Yeah. I know originally when we reached out to you, it was like, just so people listen who are listening, how the sausage is made. I think we reached out, it may have been like late January or February. You were like, hit me up in March. I got to take care of some stuff. I got a scout report. I was like, okay, gotcha. I was like, wow.
People like to think I'd be joking, man. But if you notice the time, because all of January I'm on the road. Because if you see me at these different All-Star games, I'm at all of them. I was at all 8, including the HBCU Legacy Bowl in February. So I'm at all these All-Star games, but I'm also breaking down film in a hotel room before practice and after practice, right? But the process of the scout report is 12-hour days, Sunday through Sunday, right? And you knock that out, until you up at 5 a.m. and you kind of shut it down at 6 p.m. So that way you could kind of, get rest, relax, go have dinner, do whatever you need to do. But you got to stay disciplined on that, because that's how I'm able to get through 1,000 prospects. I would love to be, half-assed like some people out there and talk about the same 35 players all day. Like, that can't happen. But that's the work that really goes in.
Yeah. It's funny. One of my favorite tweets that I saw from you, somebody said something, I think because you talked about running backs, and they were like, they said something about, oh, this guy picked all running backs who were like 5'11" and shorter. And he said, oh, I got time today. And you and you broke down and you kind of explained why you chose these players. And it was just like, it's amazing that all that work you put in. And again, I know everybody doesn't understand or know exactly what you do, but all that work you put in, and you still get somebody who, on Twitter or something that be like, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
It's funny you bring that up, because I said that on the Thursday, because I had Bijan Robinson as my second running back, but Jahmyr Gibbs is my number 1 running back. Right. Internet went crazy. Friday, the reports come out from ESPN that, some teams have Jahmyr Gibbs number 1 and Bijan. I was like, but when I said that yesterday, y'all told me to go sit my black ass down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now look at y'all trying to, teams kind of like, But when I tried to tell y'all that earlier, same thing in July. I tweeted out, and the tweet still, I'm waiting for draft night though. The tweet's still out there though from July, when I said Anthony Richardson is number 1 quarterback in the draft, before this dude even played a season as a starter. And now, and I got a lot of heat back in July. Now you look at where we are. This dude might go top 5. So when you do the work, and when I say stuff, I'm not saying it just to shoot off takes. The work has been put in for me to even tweet that out there. I'll just be out there on Twitter all day tweeting out takes.
Yeah, definitely understand. Let's jump into the draft. and some of your thoughts on some of the players. HBCU. We were kind of talking about it before the show. A lot of times with FCS, players and HBCU, the biggest difference in those teams is typically in the trenches. So it's kind of rare that you see a big man, an offensive lineman or defensive lineman, unless not outside of edge rushers, get taken in the draft. Unless you're a Teron Armstead and a guy like that. So it's typically skill players that you see taken. What are some of the guys, I guess, skill guys that you kind of got on your radar, HBCU wise, that we may see taken this year?
I got to start on defense. Isaiah Bolden and Keenan Isaac. Those two guys have been so impressive throughout this whole All-Star game circuit. I saw both guys at the NFLPA Bowl, and I was also able to see Isaac down at the HBCU Legacy Bowl. And the cool part is when you watch them at the NFLPA Bowl, they're going up against Power 5 players and players from the FBS, and the length and athleticism showcased themselves all throughout the week. You talk about long guys, press corners, ball skills. In Bolden's case, he's a supreme athlete, so he can run fast, jump high, all that stuff like that. But he's able to play anywhere in the secondary. He can play both corner spots. He can play inside as a slot. He can play both safety spots. So he's someone that gives you that versatility and also has the athleticism. Isaac is someone I think really helped himself out because he measured in at 6'2", because he measured in at 188 and showed the press skills and ball skills to play the ball when it's in the air. But you go back and watch him against Auburn last year, not this past season, but in 2021, he had a really good game. So for me, watching those guys out there compete against the Power 5 guys and do a great job, and Bolden played great in the NFLPA game, spoke volumes to what they were able to do. In terms of receiver, I was very impressed with what you see from obviously everybody talks about Xavier Smith. He's quick in all directions. He's a thin guy, so that is kind of going to limit his role right out of the gate as probably just a special teamer until he's able to get acclimated to a pro strength and conditioning program, get his body up, and then get out there as a slot receiver. Holloman from Tennessee State was a really good guy to watch. Big physical receiver. Can play inside or outside. And it's funny because a lot of these skill players were able to find themselves getting drafted by the USFL right away. And do you think about at running back, Wilson from Fort Valley State, Emmanuel Wilson was really good, both at the NFLPA Bowl and also at the HBCU Legacy Bowl, watching him catch the ball away from his body. You look at Morgan State's running back, Alfonso Graham. I called a lot of his games. And what I loved about him was the fact that during the season, you see he had a great sense of timing. And, when I say this guy has a great sense of timing, it's like when you're watching the game, as let's say just from a fan's perspective, you're watching the game, it's like, man, they really need a big play right here. He's always making the play at the right time. So he can fit not only as a return specialist right out of the gate, but also as a third down back.
And he talked about the rare instance of having a guy from the trenches get drafted, but this year I think we might be one of those instances where we have a HBCU guy get drafted on the offensive defensive line. Do you think Mark Evans gets drafted? And if so, why is he one of those rare guys that would get drafted?
I think he does. And I think what he did at the East-West Shrine Bowl will help him get drafted because we know he was a left tackle for Arkansas Pine Bluff, and he was outstanding. I always tell people, go watch the game this past season versus Lane, because now you're going up against Andrew Farmer, who's also a guy that may find himself on day 3 in the 7th round, definitely priority free agent getting picked up because he's 6'3", 250 and can rush the passer. And both of those guys, you're looking at 2 pro prospects going head to head. But Evans came from playing left tackle at 6'2", because obviously these websites lie. Every roster 2 inches, 10 pounds, right? So he gets to the trying game, and I'm looking at him like, wow, he's kind of short for a tackle. He measured in at 6'2". I was like, okay, so he's definitely not playing tackle at the pro level. So they kicked him inside. He looked really well doing so. Then he was able to go down and play center. And when you combine, left tackle pass pro skills with footwork on the inside, it transitions seamlessly. So whether a team views him as a guard at 6'2", 298 or a center at 6'2", 298, they're going to be in great shape. So I think because he's able to kick down inside and was able to hold his own at the Shrine Bowl against Power 5 competition day in, day out, and looked like he played center his entire life, I think this is someone that's going to see himself get called because, again, we know the NFL and offense in general, people talk about the tackle position, and I think they overrate tackles. Where the real offensive line play is guard, center, guard. And if you're strong there, you're going to be good offensively on both ends, and Evans gives you a chance to do that.
Yeah.
Man, it's funny. I asked you about, players. There are some names people are like, but what about this guy? Because it's some names that are very popular amongst the HBCU fans that were not mentioned. For one, Aubrey Miller, especially with this being draft week, I've seen all the Senior Bowl highlights. Him basically running through Spears from Tulane, dominating drills and stuff. But saying and I'm not saying you don't think so, but it's great to see. You mentioned those other names, but didn't hear Isaiah Land's name in there as well. What about those two guys that makes them special and gives them a chance?
Well, first of all, you said skill players, so I want to make sure what I'm saying.
Okay.
You did.
Yeah. I did.
But when you talk about it's funny you bring up Land because his case is so unique, and it shows you the development of the HBCU athlete, but also shows where they are when we're watching them on Saturdays to the potential they can be if you just give these guys an opportunity, right? Because we know the landscape just from a strength and conditioning standpoint is so different from Power 5 to HBCU. You know what I'm saying? Not even Group of 5, from Power 5 to HBCU. And here's what I say about Land. Land came in, we know he played at 6'2", 215 pounds at Florida A&M. It was like, all right, obviously he's not going to be an edge rusher at 215 pounds in the pros. So he gets to the Senior Bowl. It's like, keep in mind, this is late January, right? Early first week of February. He gets down to the Senior Bowl. He checks in at 6'2", 226. It's like, okay, he put on about 15 pounds. That's good. He's trending in the right direction. He also played off-ball linebacker, which showed you, okay, now he has versatility and flexibility. He could play off the ball. Every practice, he got better to where he started to look a little bit more comfortable as an off-ball outside linebacker or inside backer, whichever one they wanted to use on a particular play. Then we get to the combine, and he checks in at 6'2", 236. And it's like, okay. So he done went from 212, 215, playing at Florida A&M, to now he's 236. And you're like, you know what, man? He might could play as an edge rusher now. But we now seen him as an off-ball linebacker. His stock is going to shoot up. I think he's going to get drafted because the weight has gotten to where you expect it to be. And there was no drop off in athleticism, of fluidity, of movement skills. But just imagine if you just looked at him as a, 6'3", 215-pound edge rusher out of FAMU. You would have said, nah, there's no way he could translate. But we haven't, a lot of these guys don't get these 3 meals a day of the proper type meals until they start training for the pros. And so watching his body quickly develop, and you combine with what he did on film, it's like, oh, this dude, he's going to find himself getting picked because he's trending in the right direction. Aubrey Miller, you mentioned the Senior Bowl. I was down there as well. It was fantastic to watch him just blow through all these running backs, right? So first of all, people came in the week talking about him as a core special teamer, and that's still on the table. Yeah, he could do that. That's going to be easy because he's going to be a rookie. But then they start to see what he brings to the table as an inside backer versus the run. He's able to run, chase sideline to sideline. And then when I went back and watched his film in preparation for the scouting reports and stuff like that, there was a game against Bethune. It was a 3rd and about 3. He ran off tackle to the left, and he stuffed it. You know what I'm saying? Was able to, stop the guy just short of the first down. So it's 4th and 1. They're on their side of the 50, and they run the same play. This time he blows up the back, no gain, turnover on downs. And you watch that like, man, he has instincts. He looks to hit. He's not one of these peekaboo linebackers or these wait-and-see linebackers. He's seeking out destruction, and he finds it. So he's dominant versus the run. And we saw the athleticism of him being able to chase guys around and maybe covering the short zone area. That's fine. And I feel like, when you combine that with his special teams, and it doesn't hurt that his teammate James Houston had a really good rookie season. So there's a pathway to where people say, okay, I know what they developed down there at Jackson State. I'm gonna take another shot on Aubrey Miller. And so when you watch those two guys play and how good they were defensively, sometimes the tape is hard to ignore, especially at those positions where you're looking at outside linebacker, inside backer, core special teamer. Those two guys will find themselves on somebody's roster. And even Joshua Pryor, the edge rusher, he may be a priority free agent, but he was from Bowie State. Go back about 4 years. He was 3 years. He was on the Senior Bowl radar, right? Senior Bowl watch list. And then you kind of like, well, what happened to Josh Pryor? Come to find out, he had dropped so much weight. He had dropped down. He was 6'2", 270. Then you saw him in the fall. It's like, wow, he's lean. He's like 225, 220. You wonder what happened. Then you find out, like, okay, he was going through some things, and now he's gotten his weight back up. So he got down to the HBCU Legacy Bowl, and he measured up at 6'3", 6'4", 6'3", 235, 245 pounds. That's perfect for him because he was a dominant pass rusher 3 years ago at Bowie, and he didn't transfer up to Morgan State. With Coach Damon Wilson, like a lot of people just thought he was going to, transfer to Morgan State, finish out that last year. He stayed at Bowie, still became a dominant player, and now we saw what we saw from him 3 years ago. So he's another one, I think, because he had an excellent week at the HBCU Legacy Bowl. Going to be another guy that we're going to see as a priority free agent get in on the roster right away.
Most of the time when you look at HBCU and FCS football, you have guys who are, kind of slighter built. We talked about the trenches, guys being kind of smaller, things of that nature. But there's a guy from Bethune who looks the part. I mean, he's first team all bus. He get off the bus first.
Right.
Do you think because of his size and his athleticism that Kamar Avery gets a shot? Maybe not drafted, but maybe a UDFA or something like that? Or is the XFL, USFL going to be the route for him?
Good question, because I feel like those two leagues are always lurking in the background, right? Because that's if I'm running one of those teams, I'm doing what New Jersey did at the HBCU Combine. The Combine was on Monday. They watched these guys work out. They watched these guys run the 40, do all the Combine drills. Then they had the positional workouts. Then the next day was a USFL draft. Next thing you know, like 6 guys. New Jersey drafted 4 dudes straight from the HBCU Combine. I think a couple of guys were on defense. They had an O lineman that got drafted, if I'm not mistaken. But I know Avery was another one that got picked, that got drafted as well. And the thing about him, when you're watching him run routes, you're looking down at the measurement, you're like, man, that's 6'6" moving like that, like 6'6", 250, moving like a wide receiver. Like, man, it's hard. And granted, his age is going to be a thing, so that's going to push him out of the draft and be in that priority free agent range. But yeah, he's got a shot, man. And again, the good part about, I tell these athletes I talk to all the time, like it's a great time to be a football player, bro. You guys got options. You got XFL, USFL, CFL. You got the European League of Football overseas.
Arena coming back.
Coming back. So you got Mexico has a LFA. They're playing right now, but you got options. Like, so embrace his opportunity. Know if the NFL doesn't shut the door, you can go get some tape, play some ball. Just like we saw Jeremy Higbottom recently get picked up by the DC Defenders, and he's on their roster right now. So it's a great time to be a student athlete, and even better time to be an HBCU football player.
Yeah,
definitely. I don't care what nobody say. Avery is not 6'6". That it's going. He gotta be a legit 6'8". I'm a every time somebody talk about and they say 6'6", I think about that the bad boy Reggie. How old are you? 15? Nah, you damn near 30. 6'6". Nah, he ain't 6'6". That boy is 6'8". Gotta be at least.
Since we brought up the USFL and the XFL, my bad, Pooh.
Oh no, you good.
Since we brought that up, I kind of want your opinion on how you think, since those leagues are in existence now and they've shown that they're not scared to take a chance on a HBCU or FCS guy. And we've even seen them find the diamond in the rough, Cavante Turpin type guys who, made it to the NFL and made an impact at the NFL level. Do you think the emergence of these leagues will force or kind of cause NFL teams to take more chances on HBCUs and FCS guys and try to find the diamond in the roughs and risk finding them before they get found by a USFL team and now you're competing with other NFL teams for them?
I don't think that'll be the case because if you're the NFL, all you're going to always be able to scrape off the top.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
So you're going to always, it's going to be like a funnel. You're going to work Power 5 on down because of the athleticism that's necessary to play in the NFL. There's just if you guys spend enough time at an NFL training camp and you look at body types and you look at athleticism, you're like, okay. So it kind of helps you when you go scout college players, like, oh, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. That's gonna work. That's the NFL body. That's not, what I'm saying? So you could pick and choose. But if you're the USFL and XFL, you're looking at it from reverse side up, like we got a ton of untapped potential that we can grow, develop, and cultivate our own stars. I think that's the route they have to take. So instead of trying to get an AJ McCarron who's 34 years old to come and play for your St. Louis Battlehawks, you go and get a Jeremy Higbottom, allow him to play and grow and develop. And if he's grows into a superstar, the NFL gonna grab him anyway. But if he grows to a very good player, you got a very good football player that can help you win. That's earning the paycheck. The salary is going to increase over time this is only year 1 for XFL, year 2 for USFL. Just speaking of the USFL in general and talk about HBCUs, if you're the New Orleans Breakers, don't go and get a McLeod Bethel Thompson that's 34 years old that has played a lot of ball in the CFL, coming off a Grey Cup championship with Toronto. Let Aquill Glass play because he needs the reps. He needs the game tape. He needs to play, and he's young. So therefore, now if you're watching, if you're a young kid watching the USFL, you say, oh, wow, Aquill Glass. I remember watching him at Alabama A&M while he's playing this league, and now they're excited. Now they're invested. Now you got a fan for life.
Mm-hmm.
If you just get this, old guy just because you want a veteran guy like the dude on his 1 foot out, that doesn't do the league service. It doesn't do your team service. It doesn't do Aquill Glass any service. You want to get these guys reps. So there's opportunities, but some GMs, some coaches got to start seeing it as, hey, man, let's just try to grow and develop these young players, but also cultivate our own stars and give these guys, time to get out there on the field and play.
Yeah, that's a good point.
One of my last questions, I say it like that because it's always so. As somebody once said, it always depends on the last answer. Jadakiss Bonds out of Hampton, size. I think it's inconsistency with the hands, but he's got that speed, that breakaway speed. What are his chances or of kind of getting that invite? Because I don't think it's going to be a draft, but I do think possibly an invite.
Yes, I think the invite is definitely in play because he's someone that, like how you guys are shocked that Kamari Everett is not 6'8". I'm shocked that Jadakiss Bonds measured at 6'2". I was like, nah. Like I've been on the field with him. I called their game when Hampton played Monmouth. I'm like he is not 6'2", man. Like he's clearly 6'5", but they measure him at 6'2", and so I'm gonna call him 6'2". But he's someone that runs good vertical routes, like knows how to stack and track a defensive back. He tracks the ball rather well. You talk about the hands being inconsistent. Okay, that's cool. I agree with that. But you can't coach height. You can't coach, acceleration.
Bingo.
And you can't coach ability to really make a play. And I think he does a good job of making a play. He had a really solid week at the Shrine game. Him and Shaq Davis of South Carolina State. I called Shaq Davis's game when they played Morgan, and you saw him as well. Another tall receiver that can play skinny and slide past defenders in the seam and stretch your defense vertically. So both guys will get opportunities. And this is the part I hate about the process. When they get these mini camp invites, hopefully they're able to sign as undrafted free agents and not get a tryout. Because you go to these mini camps and it's a tryout, you have 90 guys, 90 rookies out there trying out, right? Or mixed in with the draft class and the guys that are actually signed. So you have like 9 guys that are signed officially as undrafted rookie free agents, along with the 7 guys that drafted. So 16 rookies out there, 90 is going to make it. But the other 74 guys, you're like, man, it's going to be tough for these guys to get reps. Like, for instance, Dalen Baldwin, who played at Jackson State and then transferred to Michigan, right? He was at the Giants rookie mini camp last year, but he was a tryout guy. And he had maybe 2 reps during the full 7-on-7 period. Had a great catch in 7-on-7. The other time the ball came his way, it was overthrown. Of course, you can't show anything in 2 reps out of 2 days, and so he gets released, but he ends up getting signed by the Browns and ends up making the active roster and getting in a game later on in the regular season. So, but that's the tough part about, when you go to these rookie tryouts and you see me like, man, it's tough. You know what I'm saying? It's tough to make a especially for an offensive lineman, because you're out there with no pads on and you can't really show how you could block, with no pads. Same for D linemen.
Yeah. So my last question is, I asked him earlier, if you had to put a number on it, how many do you think HBCU players you think get drafted in these next 3 days? Well, during the 3-day draft.
Full disclosure, last year I thought was the best year for HBCU talent I've seen in quite some time. Like, from the quarterback, you had elite quarterback play. You had excellent receivers of all types, big outside guys, big inside guys, small inside guys. You had solid O-line and D-line play. You had great corners. You had really good safeties. I was like, you're going to see at least 10 dudes get drafted. And we didn't see 10 get drafted. This year, I don't see it as I saw it last year in terms of the type of class. So I'm going to say 3. I say we get 3 guys drafted.
Okay.
But I heard you guys earlier. I do feel like 10 will sign total undrafted free agent contracts, because you got Jordan Lewis of Southern, you got Joshua Pryor, you got some guys, Jai Nunn Lynn or Jai Nunn, Jai Liddell, whatever. He was fantastic at Kentucky State, older prospect, but he was laying the lumber down the HBCU Legacy Bowl. You're going to see some guys get opportunities because there was some talent out there. I call him the Triple B from Fayetteville State, Brandon Barnes. He was solid. He got good size, good athleticism. I think he'll get an opportunity. And now that Joshua Williams opened up the door for people to recognize Fayetteville State as a pipeline, so I think we'll see guys get signed as opposed to getting drafted. I think we got 3 this year that will get drafted from the HBCU level.
Yeah, that's the only FSU I'm gonna recognize on this show until after week 1. But we had our man Simple say, "Man, I like that Raging Cajun get in the back."
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying, little something back in my youth. You know what I'm saying? Back when I was a teeny popper. I'm about to be 42 now. That was a long time ago.
Well, listen, Emory, it was a pleasure. Truly appreciate you coming on, man. It means a lot to us, man.
Hey, no, it means a lot to see you guys out here doing your thing, thriving, and carrying the brand and carrying the genre forward, man. Like we talked before, like starting on YouTube and when nobody was doing it, and I watch you guys' intro, watch how you guys conduct yourselves, watch how you guys conducted this interview, and how you guys are able to float back and forth with questions. Like it's dope at me as an old head to watch you guys take and carry the flag forward, man. I'm impressed with what you guys do, and it's cool to see because I know you guys are well on your way. You guys can get to where you want to be faster than I got to where I am now, because now we're seeing this more accepted in terms of this outlet and this platform. And I know you guys are doing a fantastic job. I'm just impressed by the format, the professionalism, everything that you guys do, man. You got a fan in me.
Appreciate it. We'll have to bring you back and talk before the season actually gets started, so we can look at next year and see who people need to get their eyes on. So definitely look forward to that.
Right, listen, you guys, just reach out. I'm available, and I appreciate you guys bringing me on the show.
Ain't
Appreciate you,
problem.
brother. Have a good
Ladies
one.
and gentlemen, that was Mr. Emory Hunt, the czar of college football. Man, ooh. Now we gotta go to our brethren.